Welcome to the bunker.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to Top's Bunker, a podcast for preppers. Our email is shtf@topsbunker.com. Our website, topsbunker.com. Don't forget to check the show notes in your podcast player for a link to help support the show, valuable products and gear, and extra info on this episode. I want to thank you all for joining us. We got a great show for you. Self-defense. Have you ever thought about it? Really dug deep and thought about it. Have you ever wondered what you would do if you were faced with a physical threat, a mugging, a robbery, an abduction? If you or a loved one were involved in a life-threatening attack or assault, would you know what to do? Now, I know in our heads, we're all badasses, right? We're running across rooftops and we're Superman flying through windows, guns drawn, ready to rock like Trinity in the opening scene of the first Matrix film. Yeah, well, me too. In my dreams, I'm capable of disarming a man just like Jacky Chan, then dropping him with 2 to the chest and 1 to the head just like John Wick. I even got the wrist flick mag drop and lightning fast reload down to an art. I'd have to, right? I got 6 of his buddies bearing down on me. Got to take him out in quick succession. But the truth is, most of us would not do well if our lives depended on it. Would we even, or should I say, could we even remember the basics of survival in a time of pure panic and fear? Well, tonight we're speaking with self-defense trainer Ron Flowers about preparing ourselves for threats and situational awareness and some of his tools of his trade. Now listen close and take notes. Your life may someday depend on knowing a few things about self-defense. So let's get to it. You know we call him Buddy on the podcast.
Yeah, call me Buddy, so.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
You get bonus points if you carry a fanny pack, so.
I do not, but I did back in the day.
Okay, well, we'll bring that up. You'll get half a bonus point. But that's a sign of contention, but it's kind of our joke out there in the podcast world now. Of people are like, "You're so gay."
My guess is Ron does not carry it because, like me, he feels that it's a little bit effeminate to carry a fanny.
Oh,
it is. But I did go through that phase. And here's the thing I'll tell you, because I think I'm a little bit north of both of you, and that everything old becomes new again.
That's true.
Like bell-bottom jeans and aviator Ray-Bans.
Oh, no. We're not going to go to bell bottoms. That's not happening.
Well, yeah, I'm not into the Lainey Wilson look, but
it's coming back, man. I'm telling you.
All right. Well, so tonight we're going to talk about and continue on in our situational awareness series that we have going. And we have Ron Flowers from Central PA, and he's going to talk a little bit about his, he's a subject matter expert in situational awareness and firearms and instruction. So he's going to talk a little bit about himself, give us a little background, and we're going to have a great episode. So Ron, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Name is Ron Flowers. In terms of background, there's a whole lot of formers or retireds in the description. My first adult career when I came out of Virginia, I grew up in Virginia. First adult career was in the U.S. Merchant Marine, which I describe as a seagoing truck driver. So I traveled all over the world on American flag Merchant Marine ships. 8 years as a crew member, about 8 years, and then 10 years as ship's officer on American flag liquid natural gas carriers, which is a cryogenic cargo. It's natural gas that's frozen down to about minus 260 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 160 centigrade, and liquefied and reduced in volume 625 times. So it's a lot of natural gas in a cryogenic state. And we loaded it down in Indonesia, either in Borneo and Sumatra, and we discharged it in 4 different ports in Japan, and I did that for 10 years. I walked away from that back in the early 90s and took about a 65% pay cut to become a police officer. And that was back in the early 90s. I started out at $26,000 a year walking away from 75 grand a year where I only worked 6 months, essentially 6 months on or 6 months, or 4 months on, 4 months off, total of 6 months per year. So I started the police career in the early 90s in the city of Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is a busy little city, about 2 hours west of New York. A lot of our problems came from New York. This was back when Rudy Giuliani and Bratton were running the show in the city, and they did a great job of flushing all the criminal element, or a significant number of the criminal elements, west into New Jersey and Pennsylvania.
Like a bunch of cockroaches. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. We were, and it also happened to be when the gangs that were prevalent on the West Coast were cloned and grew up in Chicago and New York City. Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, 2ND, a lot of gangs, and they migrated out of New York, particularly west into Jersey and Pennsylvania, via what they call the Route 222 corridor, and they came through Allentown. They went into Reading. Lancaster, which is real close to where I live now, was known as the motherland of the Pennsylvania Latin Kings. That was where the Latin Kings took root in our state, and they battled each other. They battled the New York Latin Kings, battled the Chicago-based Latin Kings, and then, of course, you throw in the Bloods and the Crips and the local gangs and some of the others. So that I did that for a while. I worked in patrol. After a few years, I got sick for a while and came back from that sickness. It came back from a cancer diagnosis. I'm doing well. And I ended up in narcotics as an undercover. Later on, I got promoted to sergeant, and they moved me back over into patrol. I worked on the street for a while. I worked in detectives as a sergeant. All of our detectives were sergeants at that time. And then I went back to narcotics as a team sergeant, where I ran a team of guys, and got picked up by the DEA for a couple of years. Got picked up later on by the FBI for a couple of years, meaning I was deputized by those federal agencies. So I had a city badge and a federal badge, and I could enforce both federal and state and local law. I got promoted to lieutenant. They removed half my brain, and they moved me out into training. And I took over as the commanding officer of the Allentown Police Academy, which is, we had a regional responsibility, not just our guys, a regional responsibility. And did that up until I retired and did my first deployment to Afghanistan, where I met Buddy.
What do you mean by removed half my brain? Was that a joke?
Yeah, that was a joke.
Okay, I'm like, what? Did he just say, did I miss something here?
Yeah, if I made captain, they would have removed both halves, or assistant chief for sure. They would have removed both halves of my brain, and that's a joke. I bust on command staff all the time. God bless them. There's some good people up there. They've got a lot of competition for their time and attention. But us rank and file type cops, we just tease them quite a bit.
Same thing in the military. When officers, we say that when they go to the officer schools, that that's their first start of their lobotomy, and then every as they progress, they lose more of their brain. So,
well,
it's just a running joke.
Exactly. To back you up on that, when I was in the Merchant Marine as an officer, I was directly commissioned in the United States Navy Reserve. So I served several years in the reserves also. Started out as a butter bar, and when I got into police work and was no longer doing Navy-related work in the Merchant Marine, I resigned my commission as a lieutenant commander in 2004. Wow. So half my brain was gone anyway.
They got the other half. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't around in the Giuliani days. I know Giuliani was awesome. Did half my growing up in Bergen County, New Jersey, which is just over the George Washington Bridge from New York City.
Yep, I know it.
I'm sure you do. Lots of people do. And it's it's basically just if you want to, it's basically the suburbs of New York City if you want to think about it that way. I mean, it kind of is.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of crime, man. Before I moved out of that area, New York was in bad shape before Giuliani got there.
He did a great job. I actually handled a criminal investigation, a minor one, for his stepson, and his aides sent me an autographed book. Giuliani wrote a book a number of years ago. I can't remember the name of it. It's in my library somewhere, a signed copy. for doing something for his stepson who was in college in Allentown, and I can't remember what the offense was, but I helped him out with something. He wasn't charged with anything. It was an investigation, a minor investigation.
Yeah, well, I was looking at your website a little bit, the police defense firearms training website.
Yeah, that's one of them. The other one is Citizens Defense Training (CDT), and that's a civilian company. And then PDFT, Police Defensive Firearms Training, is the law enforcement security. And in some venues, if the venue lets me, if the host allows it, I have switched on civilians that attend the LE classes as well.
I would imagine there's a big difference between training police and training civilians.
Yes and no. Yes, at the introductory level, because police have a foundation that they get in the academy. I think it's up to about 100 hours now if you include rifle training. So they have a foundation that most civilians don't have at the introductory and level 2 classes. However, it has been my experience that there are some, at least in this state, there are some really, really switched on civilian shooters that are into it, and they're spending their own money, their own time, buying their own equipment and their own ammunition, and they go to some really high quality training, train with some of the people that I've trained with, and they're really, really good. So that's what I mean about switched on civilians coming to LE classes. You don't have to worry about their safety. You don't have to remind them to keep the finger off the trigger or on a rifle to keep the safety on. They already know all that. All I can do with those people and at the LE classes is I make them better with a deep dive into the fundamentals, because there is no such thing as advanced shooting. That's a myth. It's basics mastered. And that's where I focus on, is making them better with the fundamentals that they already have and taking them a deeper dive into those fundamentals that they never got in the academy.
That's great. I never heard that before. Basics mastered. That's great.
Well, I didn't invent it. That comes out of my mentors that come out of the unit, and I know you know who they are.
Oh, yeah.
Buddy, you awake?
Yeah, I'm awake. I'm just taking it all in. Just like normal, I take it all in.
I got you.
I can second what he was saying about law enforcement. You'd be surprised at the law enforcement training. Gone through some law enforcement training myself, and you'd be surprised at the different levels of training in different departments. Take it more serious than others, and a lot of the guys who my law enforcement friends, they go out on their own to get additional, because they have a baseline standard, kind of like the military. You go out and you qualify once a year and stuff. But these guys, like you said, the switched in guys, will go out on their own and go take these shooting schools. They'll go to some of the, former SEALs or operators or CAD guys and go out and get, the more high speed training that, hopefully will keep them alive.
Well, that's an important point, because in law enforcement, it runs a gamut. You've got guys that really wish they weren't issued a gun, and they would show up at qualifications annually and have to blow the dust bunnies out of the barrel, or they would show up, it would be a cold qualification, and they would go to exercise the first stage and not have a round in the chamber and not have known it for a year. Now, that's the worst case. You've got other guys that don't go on to training of their own. They are of the opinion that if the department thinks it's important, the department would send them, which goes back to my joking about command staff. They've got a lot of competition for their attention, their time, and their limited money. And training is usually one of the first things that gets cut, because they're throwing the dice that they're never going to have a situation that's going to cost them $1 gazillion and the reputation of the municipality and the department and every man and woman in it. And those are the cases that make it all the way up to the Supreme Court, and they now govern our lives as law enforcement officers. They tell us what we can and cannot do.
So let's switch gears a little bit. If we go through your resume, 3-4 pages of it, the places you've trained, I mean, I can just, spitball it and say you've had some of the best training I've ever seen out there with people. I mean, you've been to the tier 1 schools and some of the best trainers out there. So having said that, if I was out there and I was a new shooter and I wanted to learn how to, shoot, and I'm out there shopping around like I would be shopping a doctor or shopping, a real estate agent or something, what does somebody look for in a firearms instructor?
Honesty, which you don't have any measure to judge if you're new at that. But if you're looking for an honest vibe, you're looking for somebody who's honest about what they have and have not done. If they don't put it out there, or they won't tell you if you make an inquiry, that's a red flag. If they make a lot of claims about all these tactics that they know, but they don't have the requisite background, that's a red flag also. It's just hard to say. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that they go to, and I don't want to run down any particular organization, but for instance, if you go to an NRA basic pistol instructor school, that's 2 days, butts in the seat, with a guy who really doesn't know a whole lot anyway. But that they're not designed for that. They're designed for the introductory shooter. This is the end the bullet comes from. This is the trigger. This is the hammer. That kind of a thing. And if you go in expecting that level of instruction, you won't be disappointed. But if you're trying to learn how to defend yourself or your family, you need somebody with more background. And in my opinion, it has to be somebody with a background in law enforcement or military, or who has been heavily exposed to those sources. I've got a local friend here who's a good firearms instructor, a young guy in his 30s. He's never been a cop. He's never been security. He's never been military, but he's been exposed to those people. But he doesn't pretend to be anything other than what he is. And that's someone who's received training from some really good people. And he regurgitates that with his own flair, and he's passionate about it. So I would send somebody to a guy like that. He's honest about it.
Well, and that's a great point, because a lot of people think, oh, I got to get firearms instruction from somebody who's been in the military or somebody who's been in law enforcement. And using your term, the switched on guys, I've seen a lot of instructors out there that were civilians and never had any of that experience. They know the fundamentals and they know the basics real well, and they can teach them. It's overlooked. You can't just look at somebody's resume and just because they were a Navy SEAL, it means they're a great instructor. So
for me, many years ago, when I first started shooting, I went to a gun range. I checked a whole bunch of them, checked reviews, this and that. And the one that I found, I believe it's called Eagle Gun Range. Just a nice, a neighborhood gun range. Really nice, clean interior, good people working there. Like you said, Ron, the vibe was good. I could feel that the people in there, they cared about what they were, teaching and selling, and your experience there for sure. Like like one of the guys behind the counter when somebody was checking out was like, "Hey, remember to go wash your hands." The stuff like that, just like good people,
Right.
And I felt it was pretty good. Now that was back in the day when you had to have a license to carry in Texas. So I went ahead and took the CDL course and thought the instructors was so good that I learned so much just from that one course. And then, of course, got the license. That I went ahead and took pistol 1 and pistol 2 and rifle as well. And pistol 1 was kind of like more like the safety part of it and all that, and all about the gun and how you stand and that kind of thing. And then pistol 2 went into some more in-depth stuff. But that was my experience in finding instructors. I just happened to find a really good gun range with really good people that cared about your experience and your all that.
Well, that you brought up an important point, and that would have been on my subsequent list of things to look for. Unfortunately, finding that might require that you suck on a lemon 1 or 2 times before you find somebody that is humble, passionate, honest, and you can sense that they really, really care about communicating the important points to you, because communication is key. You said it. You could be the most high-speed operator in the world, but if you can't convey that experience in ways that people that don't have that experience understand what you're trying to give them in terms of ability to defend themselves or their community, it's wasted. It's a wasted attempt. It's not to say that their instruction is totally wasted. It's just you're not going to get it.
Yeah, and you also might be soured on it too. And for new shooters, like just civilian shooters, that could be devastating. That could turn you away from guns.
It could. And then the teaching civilians versus teaching cops. I already talked about the baseline that cops have that most civilians have. But when I teach civilians, I also run women's classes, and what an eye opener that has been for me. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but men and women don't communicate the same way. It might come as a shock.
No, that's false.
Yeah.
Total myth.
Yeah. But I was blessed to have my wife help me with that because I taught her to shoot when we were dating, still trying to impress each other. I would not try to train my wife, but I did train her when we were boyfriend, girlfriend, and she got pretty good and started going to some of the same classes as me. And so when I started teaching women's only classes, she was very, very helpful in helping me speak female. So those classes have been very, very
Yeah, that's
successful.
good. That's good. And I taught my wife how to shoot, and she shoot. I'm not gonna lie about it. She shoots better than I do, and that's I'm not that great of a shooter, but she's really good.
Well, I have the same phenomena. Now, my wife is not as fast. She's not as aggressive. She's not going to, win the gunfight that I pray that I would win. But if you give her a slow fire and a B8 bullseye at 25 yards, she's shooting high 90s all day.
Yeah, right. What the women can do that for some reason. I don't know if men's egos get in the way. Maybe I don't know.
Absolutely.
I found out that through training in the military, I was a trainer on a lot of different weapon systems. I found out that females, and this is from the get go, females will listen. They'll take that instruction. You can give them the basics, and they'll apply them, and just their tension. It's something they haven't either seen or they actually want to learn because they're kind of in the man's world in the military. So they want to perform, and a lot of guys, man, every guy I knew in basic training or whatever, they had at least shot their grandfather's shotgun, or they've been around weapons whether they had or not, and they just wouldn't listen. But females are humble, and the best students I've ever had.
You and I grew up running around the woods with sticks and pretended they were guns, playing combat from the old Vic Morrow TV show.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so we come with preconceptions and we think we know it already. And so the instructors have to overcome what we think we know. But so you're spot on. They come as a blank slate when it comes to shooting in most cases, and they take it and run with it.
Yeah, I think coming into a training situation humble as a male would be your best bet. I mean, you're going out and you're spending the money anyhow, and if you can, not go in and try to impress the instructor, which I see all of the time.
Yeah.
And go in humble.
You have plenty of time later to be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've tried that for years and I failed at it, so that's all right.
And something I've noticed as well is, everybody even in the prepper world, firearms world, just we try to impress everybody, even with our trucks and stuff. We buy things, we don't know how these things work. And I have a combat belt, and it's brand new. I've had it on like twice. I got it all set up. It looks really cool. But I just don't use it, and I don't train with it. So it's something I should put on Marketplace or something and sell, because I just don't use it. I still go back and use the old stuff that I used when I was in the military and stuff that works. So.
Well, a lot of people have heard me say it, and I believe you may have heard me say it. I'm a self-confessed gear queer.
Oh yeah.
I have bought it all, tried it all, and thrown it in a closet. So I've kind of settled down on a few things now, but yeah, I've bought a lot of gear to include the fanny pack back in the day, and Thunderwear. Have you ever heard of Thunderwear?
Yes. Yes.
No, but I want it. What is it?
It's something like underwear that's worn over the underwear down in front of the package, where the gun is carried before the advent of appendix carry.
Yeah, it's like the precursor for the belly bands and stuff.
Dude. Yeah, obviously it rode lower than the belly band.
Oh yeah. But yeah. I think, yeah.
Do not carry that way with one in the chamber, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I never had one. It's too risky for me. I guess I don't trust myself enough, but the fanny pack, I trust totally with the fanny pack. And you get co-points for the fanny pack. So
that was a long time ago. But the only thing with fanny packs, because my dad had one, may he rest in peace, you can't carry anything else in that pouch. You get anything in that trigger guard, like your key ring or something like that, you get that in that trigger guard and it's flopping around in that fanny pack, unless the fanny pack has a dedicated, nothing else goes in it, holster that covers the trigger guard, which is the same advice I give women if they choose to purse carry. You can't just throw it in a purse. You can't just throw it in a fanny pack. It's got to have a dedicated compartment that nothing else can sneak into the trigger guard. No way, no how.
So yeah, I got the 511. Yeah, go ahead. I just got that 511 fanny pack, and you can't get a lot of stuff in there on purpose.
Okay.
Um, and so I do have a light in there with it, but it's compartmentalized where the light kind of stays separate. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of things. I've tried other fanny packs and stuff, and you're right, man. It's like a purse. The bigger it is, the more stuff you throw in there, and it should be dedicated at least that compartment to the firearm. So
Yep. Absolutely.
My first sling pack had a dedicated area for your firearm, and it also had it wasn't really a holster. You know what it was? It was more like a pocket carry holster. You know, where it's just a
Yep.
wrap. You know, with a Velcro, or the pocket carry ones have like a more of a like a rubbery, sticky kind of a feeling, so they'll stay in the pocket when you pull the weapon out. It had that, and I really liked it. But then I went to switch to another sling pack. It didn't have that, so I actually use a pocket holster for my gun in the fanny pack. This way, I'm guaranteed that nothing's going to touch that trigger. Nothing else goes near the gun in that pouch, and my hand can't pull the trigger.
Right, right. Yeah, that's critical. I don't encourage that kind of pocket holster or collapsible inside the waistband holster for any classes at the introductory or civilian level, because reholstering requires you to kind of hold it open with your non-shooting hand, and there's the danger of you covering your non-shooting hand accidentally with a loaded gun, which is a no-go. But for a civilian using it in a self-defense situation, there's nothing wrong with it, because you're not in a hurry to put the gun away in it anyway.
No, holstering in the situation the way that I carry it is a catastrophe. I mean, you can't reholster. Yeah,
Right.
if you get into a shooting situation, you're going to have to think about holstering it. Otherwise, like you said, you could blow your other hand off.
Yeah, exactly. But you do need to put it away when the man shows up.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Put the gun away, hands up.
Well, keep them at least, up and exposed. I wouldn't put them in the air because you don't want to look guilty of anything, but just keep them open so that everybody knows that you don't have anything in it.
that's a good point there. I've heard of several first responders that go to a shooting situation with a cop. They might just be a bystander and then actually have the medical training and go up and they're in civilian clothes and they're over there working on the policeman, and they end up getting the next policeman on the scene end up smoking them because they just don't know any better. They just know there's an active shooter. They got a policeman down. They see a guy above their friend or fellow law enforcement officer, and they end up smoking them. So
it's not a
did
job I could do.
Years ago, I don't recall the exact case. It wasn't a civilian that was functioning as EMS or medical response. It was a civilian who saved the life of a police officer, but the officer was wounded. And when the other responding officers saw him with a gun and saw a wounded officer on the ground, they killed him. And that was a tragedy. It doesn't happen often.
Wow.
But they did kill a civilian who saved an officer's life, if I remember it correctly. And I don't remember where that happened, out in the Midwest or West somewhere.
Yeah, it's tragic.
Yeah,
it does happen. So I guess you just really have to be careful and like you said, put the gun away when the man shows up, or after you go to start doing the other things. So, wow.
So, buddy, go ahead and switch gears again if you want to.
All right, let's do it. So now that you've kind of talked about how to pick a shooting school or shooting instructor, let's talk about how a person would pick a personal defense weapon or something to defend their home.
Well, defending of the home, there's a lot of good options, but it depends on your home situation. Are there children? Is it a single family home? What are the walls constructed of? Who else lives? Is it just you and your wife? Are there dogs? That kind of a thing. A lot of people talk about, well, I'll just get a 12 gauge. Well, that's fine. But what are you going to load it with? Buckshot or slugs? And if it is buckshot, that's at least, or generally speaking, 930 caliber pellets coming out at high velocity. And depending on how rapidly they spread, which is a function of the choke that you have on it, that could be 930 caliber pellets flying down range and spreading fairly rapidly beyond a certain self-defense range to where you no longer have any confidence where they're going to end up. And that goes back to what kind of walls you have. Are there anybody else in the house? How close are to your neighbors? That kind of a thing. And then if you choose buckshot, that's fine. But there are certain loads out there that hold a much, much tighter pattern. And then it's you as a responsible shotgun owner that needs to go to the range and test that pattern at various self-defense ranges. 3 yards, 5 yards, 7 yards, 15 yards, longest hallway, that kind of a thing. There are some loads that hold a fairly tight pattern if you know what that load will do at a given distance. So that's critical. I used to hear the old canard that AR-15s, you can't use that because that ammunition over penetrates. Well, that's just simply not true, depending, again, on ammo selection. The weapon was designed to have essentially a heavier 22 caliber bullet that would tumble and create a significant wound channel fairly rapidly upon impact on the human torso. In fact, it caused a problem because they tumbled so easily that when they hit the limbs or branches of any foliage in Vietnam, the first theater of war that we used them, they tumbled so rapidly they weren't hitting the target. So the threat. So AR-15 is a good self-defense weapon, but I wouldn't use armor piercing, for instance. I might not use a heavier grain bullet like a 64 or 72 or 77 grain. I might use a 55 grain, which is a lighter 5.56 or 223 bullet, and with a slightly open tip, so that it fragments fairly rapidly if it hits anything relatively solid. And again, it begins to tumble fairly rapidly when it hits the human torso, creating a larger wound channel and resulting in greater chance of incapacitation and not over penetration. Because people get all scared by the foot per second number they hear associated with, 27, 2800 feet per second. But the ammo selection is important there as well. But the reality of it is, what are you most likely to grab in the middle of the night? And that's going to be a pistol. And if you use it to defend yourself at home, I would highly recommend a light on it and then practice with that light and that pistol. So those are things that factor into it. Then you can get into caliber. I personally don't recommend anything smaller than a 380 or a 38 special if you choose a revolver. My caliber of choice, given the progress of modern projectiles, would be a 9mm. You get more bullets, easier to shoot, and it has greater I hate to use the phrase stopping power, but it has a greater chance of incapacitation with well-placed hits more rapidly.
And 9mm is cheaper.
It is. Well, that's true too. Now that I got to buy my own ammo, now that I'm retired, that factors into it for sure.
And Ron, you were talking about what buildings are made of, and I was before this. I was recently in the construction industry for multifamily, which is apartments and things like that. And right. I can tell you, most people don't realize this, but when you're inside your apartment, you are just literally inches away from other people. You have a piece of sheetrock, which is what you call your wall. You have a tiny bit of nothing insulation that's inside that basically your fingers can go through. 4 inches of the 3 or 4 inches of that, you have another piece of sheetrock, and that's their wall. I've seen videos of test shots where people have done high-powered rifles with pretty good rounds that people would carry, and shooting through these types of walls. And if it does not hit a wood stud, they were going through like 7 walls. You're talking about 7 different apartments.
Yeah. That goes back to what we were kind of talking about earlier. Finding a quality instructor that will be honest with you about that and is going to give you the confidence to hit what you're aiming at realistic self-defense distances, depending on your personal mission. Newer shooters, I've got them at 3, 5, 7 yards, maybe. I'd like to push them back to 10 or 15, but what's your longest hallway? That kind of a thing.
Right. Exactly.
That's a very good point.
That's so true. You're not going to be shooting somebody in a self-defense situation in your home 25, 30, 40 yards. It's not going to happen.
A civilian's not going to do it in public, generally speaking, unless you step up and try to stop an active shooter, and then you better know what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, on my recent trip up there to Pennsylvania, took my daughter out to a range, and there was somebody on the left and the right of me. It was a Saturday, and there was a lot of people there. And these guys come in, and they got five different. The guy to my right had five different pistols, everything from a Sig to a Glock, and different calibers, and this and that. And he's taking uh, his target and putting it out there about, I don't know, 15, 20 yards, and just not shooting well,
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here thinking, man, this guy needs to back up. And obviously he hadn't gotten the training, or maybe he did and didn't listen. So, like you said before, it's the basics. You got to learn the basics, and you got to learn to do the basics well before you start going off to the advanced shooting and stuff. That's a great point.
Well, there's an evolution that a lot of shooters go through, and I did it too. I'm confessing to this. I went to the academy, and back then it was 80 some odd hours, and I took all that. And so when I started looking for ways to spend extra money, and I wanted to get extra training, which you saw in my resume, I've gotten a lot of extra training on my own time and my own dime. I look for advanced shooting, and then I look for advanced. And then when I check those boxes, I look for like ludicrous advanced or super advanced. There ain't no such
Ludicrous.
thing.
I like that.
That's a Spaceballs reference. You got
Spaceballs,
that, right?
exactly. Yes, I did. That's
Yeah.
great.
You just
So,
got more coal points. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
so it's I've matured. I like to think that I've realized that it's really just going back and learning efficiencies and nuances about the basics that I wasn't in a place to really learn at the time, but I am in that place now, and that's what I'm trying to do. It's sights and trigger, boys. That's all it is. But there's nuances to it that you can learn if it's properly explained to you, and you're in a place where you're ready to hear it.
Yeah, that's a good point. You've got to want that to receive that training for sure.
Yeah. You got to be ready. You got to be ready to accept the fact that you're going back to the basics, which a lot of egos get in the way of.
So, Ron, we ask this of everybody that comes on in this, this kind of genre, what we talk about with weapons and stuff. So, I want to know what your everyday carry is. I want you to pocket dump. I want you to tell me, what do you carry on a day-to-day basis?
I've shot and I confess I own several weapons. I don't shoot very much anymore. I train with a single action staccato. That's what I teach with and train with.
Oh, Gucci.
Yeah, well, it sounds Gucci, but it's a fine weapon. It shoots really, really well.
Yeah.
I actually own another one that is of a carry size, another staccato of a carry size, but I got to be honest with you, I don't carry it very often because if I did get in a self-defense shooting, it's going to be seized in evidence for a while, depending on the jurisdiction and whether or not it's a controversial shooting. And that's just too expensive a pistol for me to have locked up in an evidence locker. So
Yeah.
my everyday carry is a SIG P365 with a red dot on it. It's a Holosun, a fully enclosed emitter red dot, which is my preferred type of red dot. I'm old enough to where I don't see the front sight very well anymore. I have presbyopia, or that is to say reading glass syndrome. And red dots are a real game changer if you properly learn how to use them. Now, if you grew up on iron sights, you grew up on equal height, equal light, front sight is your priority, blah, 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 blah. And you stare at your target, you get scared, you pull your gun out, and you got to do a focal shift back to your rear and front sight relationship with a focus primarily on the front sight if you're close enough. You're doing these focal shifts going back and forth, and they're very rapid. I'll give you that. They happen in fractions of seconds. But with a red dot, you don't do that, man. You stare at the threat and you stay focused on the threat. You never take your eyes off the threat. And you put that red dot up in front of your face, and you're aware of that dot floating in front of your eyes between you and the threat in the same way that you're aware of a bug on a windshield. When you smash a greasy bug on your windshield, you can't afford to sit there and stare at that bug for 3 or 4 miles, or you're going to drive into a tree. You've got to stare where you need to go. You've got to stare where you need to drive the gun, and you're just aware of the dot. But that takes some training. It takes the
That's a
transition.
really really good point, Ron. It really is, because I believe personally, for me, for shooting, I believe that is my exact problem with getting rounds on target. Now I can shoot from, let's say, 10-15 yards. I'm shooting anywhere from 4 to 6 inch groups, and that's good for me. Okay, but I understand what you just said, and I have that problem. I when I look through my sights, which are iron sights, and that's what I'm good at. I do notice the sight, and then have to shift to notice the target, and then shift back to the sight again. Back to the sight, front sight, rear sight, target, front sight, rear sight, target. And there is time delay there that happens when I'm doing that in motion.
Not to mention time delay, there's also awareness of a changing situation delay. Is that guy got a phone or a gun? And if he has a gun, did he drop it before you pull the trigger because you were doing a focal shift back to your iron sights, as opposed to keeping your eyes on the threat 100% of the time and
Yeah,
just being aware of the dot?
I should probably think about getting a red dot for my handgun.
Yeah, Keith, he after a conversation we had over a burger and a beer a couple weeks ago, he got me convinced that's my problems with pistol shooting has a lot of just what he said has to do with all of that. So he's got me convinced that I need to be a red dot shooter. So I'm
Well,
probably going to come up there and take some instruction from him very soon.
I got to stress, if you buy the red dot, don't do what old Ron did, and that is buy one, put it on your pistol, and go out and try and teach yourself and wonder why it didn't work. Because if you're focusing on your sights, when you put a dot on your pistol, even if you understand how to zero it, when you slap that pistol up in front of your face, the first thing you're going to do is shift your focus back to the dot, which defeats the purpose. And then you'll shift your focus back to the threat, then back to the dot. And if that's what you're going to do, keep your iron sights.
Right, right.
There's no point. So you need quality instruction and transition before, and particularly if you're going to carry it and defend yourself, don't slap it on your gun and go out and conquer. And don't slap it on a police officer's gun and tell them to go out and police. That's criminal. That's morally and in my opinion, negligently the way to treat that. Don't do it.
It kind of reminds me of when I made a transition from regular iron sights, back in the day with the M16A2 to
Right.
and I started shooting scoped up rifles, and I started my sniper journey, and you had to relearn how to shoot, and there's a lot of different things that fundamentals are the same, but still there's some difference in basically the equipment.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not. You're probably not old enough to remember it historically, but the first red dot on a rifle or a firearm for that matter was on a Car 15 that was used in the Sante raid where special forces hit a prisoner of war camp in North Vietnam. It turned out to be a dry hole, but it was a brilliantly executed raid. And that dot was occluded. Do you know what I mean by that?
I do not.
No.
Okay, you slap that rifle up in front of your eye and you look through the tube and you're looking at it was a much bigger dot than what you had on your M16A2. You had a CCO or something to that effect, or EOTech.
Yeah.
So it was a much larger dot, but you could not see the target through the tube. It was occluded, meaning you could not see through the tube. You're thinking to yourself, well, how in the world am I going to shoot anything? Well, you have to be two eyes open.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Your non-dominant eye, and you probably know this from sniper training, your non-dominant eye perceives everything downrange. Your dominant eye picks up the dot, and your brain merges the images. It's called the Bindon, Bindon, aiming concept. Bindon, I can't remember his first name, was one of the founders of Trigicon.
Everybody wants to squint the eye.
You can't.
So for the layman, the way I describe it for the layman out there, if you're trying to figure out what we're talking about, let's say you have a firearm that has a laser on it that puts a dot on a person's body, an actual dot on a person's body. It's like that, except it's virtual. Your dominant shooting eye sees the dot your other eye sees the target, and your brain merges the two, so it looks like there's a dot on the target, but there's not actually one.
If you're properly trained on using a visible laser or a red dot, it's the same, relatively the same concept. Because people, when they get a visible laser, the mistake they make is they get sucked into where the laser is. And you've got to keep your eyes open and keep aware of your situation, and then put that dot, that visible dot, on the threat and send it.
I've shot with a pistol with laser on it. I couldn't shoot it for shit. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, what's going on here? I'm putting the dot where it's supposed to go. It's the bullet's not going there.
Was it zeroed?
I don't know. It was a gun range with some friends, back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. It's got to be zeroed in the same way that your red dot on your M16 had to be zeroed. I mean, that's a given. But I don't know if you ever did this in the military in training, if they properly trained you on how to use that red dot on your assault rifle. But if you get behind that rifle and you snap that thing up, somebody would put their hand in front of the front of the optic, so you could not see through it, but you could still see the dot. And your non-dominant eye is wide open, and you're still perceiving the target that you need to shoot. And that's an easy field expedient way to demonstrate for them how the brain merges the image.
Yeah, we had some advanced instructors from guys from the Army marksmanship team teach us stuff like that. But prior to that, man, they gave us the equipment, and some guy who was, had used it before back in another unit or something would come up and go, "Oh yeah, this is the way it works." And you really didn't get the instruction you should have with that until I got the Army's shooting team there that taught a great class on it. Yeah.
Same thing happened in law enforcement when rifles began to filter out into our world after the LA shootout.
Oh yeah.
And we began to get them. We put optics on the rifles and didn't know how to use them. We zeroed them. We knew how to zero them. We got down behind them and did a slow administrative zeroing of the rifle, but we still aimed with the dot as opposed to maintain situational awareness, keep two eyes open, and just be aware of the dot landing on the target at a given distance. If it's a greater distance or a smaller target, you know better than I do with your background that you do have to slow down your trigger press. You have to have a better connection to the weapons platform. That's all well and good, but you still got to stare at the target.
Yeah, and distance does make a big difference, because a laser is a perfect straight line. A bullet does not fly in a perfect straight line.
No, it doesn't. But I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I was always told by my daddy and his buddies and my uncles, bullets rise. Well, that's clearly not true. That's defiance of the law of gravity. You launch it up at an angle, but they don't rise. But anyway, yeah, I was misinformed back in the day.
So what else do you carry besides your pistol or whatever you have?
I carry a fixed blade most of the time. I've got a background from some of my mentors that come out of DevGru in the combative, and they got it from the Sayat Kali people.
Yeah.
The defensive use of a fixed blade targeted thrusts, not slashing attacks. I don't have a background in knife fighting with slashing being the primary method of employment. Their primary method of employment is targeted to vulnerable areas that can debilitate an attacker fairly quickly by causing rapid exsanguination, like into the carotid or into the heart or into the femoral or something like that. So I carry a fixed blade. There's a guy out your way, as a matter of fact. His name is Harley Elmore. He makes the Rat blade. I also carry a blade made by Bill Rapier, who was a career DevGru guy and a good man, good instructor, good Christian. He makes a really nice blade, and he's heavy into that combatives as well. Kyle Dufour has been a mentor of mine in that regard, and those are the two blades that I carry most of the time. I've got a few others that I'll play with every once in a while that are high quality as well, that are recommended by those people and the people that mentored them. But primarily it's a Rat or it's one of the AMTAC, American Tactical Blades, AMTAC blades.
Yeah, I carry myself. I'll carry at least a fixed blade, or a folding blade, action blade, or actual government issued switchblade, and then other times I'll carry a smaller fixed blade. Nothing crazy, but It's good to have. What else would you carry when you're out there besides a blade and a knife? I mean, is there anything else?
Flashlight, a small flashlight. I usually have one on me wherever I go, even during the daytime, because I do go inside. And if I go inside and power was lost, or I'm somewhere where the light is diminished or non-existent, I want to have something besides an awkward phone light. So I'll carry a small flashlight. Streamlight is my go-to. One of those pencil thin ones, the long ones, or a pencil, kind of a pencil, maybe big around as a pen.
Oh yeah,
That's a little bit shorter, couple inches, couple 3 inches long. I'll carry one of those. In terms of defending myself, those are what I'm going for. Obviously, I carry a phone for emergency contact, but if the feces hits the oscillating device and we lose all that,
yeah.
that's kind of useless. One other thing, though, if I might mention it, because I'm a big fan of it, and I assume it's good kit. I believe what they sell. There's a company called EMP Shield,
Yeah.
and I put one in my truck and I put one in my wife's Jeep. So if there is a significant solar flare or we were hit with an EMP, it protects the electronics. So if you got an older car that's vulnerable to that kind of an attack, I mean, a newer car that's vulnerable to that kind of attack, that's helpful. And I have it on my generator, my home generator as well.
I think we won't know until it happens.
Right,
It's
right.
one of those things. Yeah, I hear all that. They've had engineers come out, oh, that's not going to work. There's nothing you can do. And then I've had other people that I've watched, and on YouTube, you've got subject matter experts all over the place out there.
Right.
So, but I guess we will find out if it does happen. So,
I can promise you that millions of our tax dollars have been spent on hardening government buildings
yeah,
with that kind of technology. And whether it's theirs or not, I don't know, but they believe it works because they're spending millions of dollars to harden critical infrastructure at the military and government level. So I don't know. I don't know if the EMP shield works or not, but I believed what they told me, and I believed their advertising. I believed my discussions with them. So I put it in my truck, in my wife's car, and our generator.
yeah. What about medical? Do you carry any medical on you?
Yes, I carry it in the car. Obviously, when I'm on the range, I have a med bag, and then I have a blowout kit on my battle belt for sure. But I also carry it in the car because I've been fortunate to have attended some training. There's a company, I forget where he's from, Dark Angel Medical. You probably heard of him.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of their classes, and then I've done a couple of live tissue classes. I don't want to get into the name of the company because I don't want to draw the attention of animal rights activists, but these are switched on military people that do live tissue with pigs. It's all humane. There's vet techs, there's vets on scene, and we practice stopping bleeding with the equipment that we use in our med kits on live animals. So I've been fortunate to do it. So I'm a firm believer, and I carry a med kit in the truck, and then I carry obviously a blowout kit on my training belt all the time.
Yeah, it's a piece of kit that I've added to my everyday carry, as of a couple years now, that, I'm carrying a tourniquet and a blowout kit, basic stop the bleed stuff. And that's on me at all times. I have something called an ankle kit that, it's got basic stuff on there.
I have not gone the ankle kit yet. I kind of feel a little bit guilty about that, but the way I dress, there's usually not enough room around there. You tried the snake staff?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I have bought some stuff from them, and not a lot of stuff. I'm a refuge medical guy.
Okay.
Actually, I'm a contractor for them, so I kind of stick to their stuff.
Right,
But
right.
that refuge medical ankle kit, and there's Fieldcraft Survival has one. There's a few of them out there that have them. The
Yeah.
refuge one works out real well. It's low profile. Unless you're wearing skinny jeans, you don't see it. We dress a lot alike, so I wear mine just anytime I'm in pants. I don't wear it with shorts, but I'll have it within reach with shorts, and it's out there. So
Yeah, I'll carry the tourniquet in a pant pocket, but I don't use the term skinny jeans because that's not what I wear, but I do wear my pants tapered.
okay, yeah,
So, And that's not a secret way of saying skinny jeans because I don't wear skinny jeans.
Well, I can't
But
wear skinny jeans because I'm a portly guy, so I have to. I like to say I'm European cut.
there you go. Okay, I'll buy that.
So yeah, but yeah, the Refuge hat, and this is a shameless plug for Refuge. I love their ankle kit. They also have what they call a slick kit, and you can buy a slick kit with a tourniquet. Your slick kit will fit in a cargo pocket, your back pocket, in the other pocket, of your jeans. You can stick a tourniquet. Like for instance, last night I did a thing last night. We did some security work for something, an event that was, they're popular right now at this time we're recording. And can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Hey Keith, can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're low, but
Well, we have a very, very bad storm come through. Right as we were starting to end the podcast, Rhonda had texted me and said, "Hey, this is gonna blow big," and then all of a sudden, all the power went out and shit hit the fan. So I got
yeah,
my.
we saw you were offline. I just wondered if, since we were still online, if it would. I was trying to stretch it out
Were
to
you
see if it will
Were
still
you still
keep the
talking?
recording. Huh?
Were you still going? Were you still
Oh,
talking?
oh yeah, we're still trucking on.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still golden, I think.
Okay. So right now I have no power to the house, and what I've done was I've got my battery backup generator, my solar generator, hooked up to the Wi-Fi.
Okay.
So everything's very, very strange. So we're definitely going. It's trying to connect satellites through a very bad storm right now.
Okay. So is it still recording on our end? So when
it looks like it is right now. I'm gonna try stopping it right now, and we're on. Okay.
now, is your everyday carry the same for when you're on your farm compared to going into, let's say, Walmart or wherever you shop?
Yeah, it is for convenience sake because I do carry on the farm. I carry when I'm out cutting the grass. I carry when I'm out, sawing up logs that fall down in the hayfield or anything like that because it's just us. And so I do carry on the farm. I carry when I'm out hiking on the farm, but it's just for convenience sake more than anything else. And I don't want to carry one of my expensive guns and lose it to evidence if I ever have to use it. So
Oh yeah.
I carry the SIG 365, or occasionally I carry the Glock 48. Slim profile, easy to hide inside the waistband, and both extremely reliable.
That's pretty much exactly what I do. My pistol, my folder knife, and my flashlight. Those are the three things I've always got on me at all times.
Yeah, it seems like a staple.
Yeah,
Pretty standard to what I carry too. Now my truck is basically a half of an ambulance, the other half is a gun truck. So I might have some what I call a speedball in there with some extra
yeah.
ammo and things like that. But I used to throw a lot of stuff in there. But the more stuff you have in there, and you kind of alluded to it a while ago, you don't want to lose an expensive piece of kit or some equipment while you're in a store. Somebody breaks in and steals your truck gun. I mean,
Well, that's an important point about having somebody break into your truck. I don't leave guns in the car unless I absolutely have to. Occasionally, if I have to go get some physical therapy for something, I have to leave it in the car, my pistol in the car. But I'm living in a fairly, there's no such thing as a safe area, but I'm living in a lot nicer area than I used to. The truck gun, again, it's not all the time. The truck rifle is not all the time. It's only occasionally because I have that same fear. I don't want my weapon to get into the hands of some, dirtbag who's going to use it to commit crimes or commit homicide. So I don't do it all the time. But the pistol is almost always on me. You're going to be rolling the dice to ever meet me or run into me anywhere, including on my farm where I'm not armed.
so okay, one last question here. What is the biggest threat in the area? Your day to day biggest threat that you might have?
Well, right now I don't have a biggest threat in where I'm living now. I'm out in the country. I live on 50 some acres, and we're surrounded by Trump signs and American flags. So I don't really have a big threat out here now, but there's a highway running by my house. You don't know who's going by. And I've lived long enough, and my career has shown me the evil that people can be capable of. So my fear, I wouldn't call it a threat, but my fear is the drifter, the wanderer, or somebody who breaks down or parks on the side of the road and thinks we're an easy mark because we're in a farmhouse on a big plot of land with nobody around us, and they think that maybe we're vulnerable. And I've got dogs as an early warning system. However, they don't bark unless you break in with a bag of chips in your hand. And
That's a
they're
good
idiots.
point.
5
Yeah.
German shepherds and
Hey,
an Australian.
I'll bark if you got a bag of chips. So we're there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but I don't have any real threats in my immediate area. But I'm not far from Harrisburg, so the city is a city.
Oh yeah.
York is to my south, and that's a city as well, and they've got issues like any city does. But I don't have any real threats here per se. Occasionally, I have trespassers that are out here scouting for a good place to hunt turkeys or deer, and they don't bother to come down to the house to talk to me and ask my permission. So I ride through the field every once in a while, and if I see them, I make sure they see me coming, so they got an opportunity to get out of there. But if they choose to confront me, I'm armed. So I don't consider that a threat, though. It's just something that's out there.
From a prepper standpoint, what would you, if you were doing a threat analysis of things that could happen to you guys out there, not necessarily, a human threat?
Well, natural disaster, obviously, we're at the end of a power line, and our power goes out not frequently, but often enough to where we've taken steps and installed a backup generator that's whole house, and 500 gallons of propane. So if we lost power for any significant period of time and we reduce the load, we're going to be good for a while.
That's
Um,
smart. Yeah.
yeah, we're spring fed, but we
Nice.
would lose the power to the pumps. So I would have to, get buckets of water and bring them in the house, as opposed to pumping it into the house. I
Okay.
do have emergency food supplies laid up. I bought that some time ago. I just chose Patriot Food Supply. I don't know what else is out there. I'm sure there's other good companies out there, but I've got a few weeks worth of that set up. Um, I'd be honest with you, I have not uh, put in a garden, though I probably should. But that's going to be a lot of work because we got deer running around all over the freaking place.
Oh yeah.
So I'd have to protect whatever we grew.
But there's your source of protein. So there you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I don't hunt anymore, but if I had to, I know how. I grew up hunting, so I've got plenty of protein, but I don't have much in the way of a garden for growing any vegetables. I just haven't done it. That's me being lazy.
If this was an episode of Doomsday Preppers that these used to air on, was it the Animal Planet or whatever
Yeah,
that was way back when?
yeah.
They would have rated him at like props for having this and that and blah 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 blah. They would say our experts think that you're good for 30 to 60 days. I don't think so. I think he's good for much longer than that.
Yeah. With all the wildlife out there.
Well,
Shoot.
that's true, but assuming that the scavengers, the people that have not prepared in any way, shape, or form, if they start coming to take what we have, between my wife and I, we're in good shape. But if one of us gets hurt, or that we could be overrun.
It's got to be a fight
It will be a fight
for sure.
for
Yeah.
sure.
I
Yeah.
like your odds better than most people's because I've met your wife and I know she can shoot, man. So
Yeah. And even good people are going to get desperate. People that would normally not be someone that you'd be afraid of and wouldn't even think twice, would never even consider stealing, they're going to become desperate. And so that's going to be exponentially greater number of people that potentially could harm you if you did prepare and do have something that they don't have.
I consider myself a good person, but I can tell you my family would not starve.
Yeah, well, there you go. See,
It's not going to happen.
there you go.
Yeah. Ron, how about you give us a couple of your contacts? Let the people know what you're doing and where they can find you, which would be awesome.
Sure.
And we'll also put them in the show notes as well.
Well, my private companies are Citizens, that's plural, Citizens Defense Training, citizensdt.com. That's for civilian classes and generally at the preparatory level, introductory level, I should say, or level 2. I don't like to use the word advanced very much, but occasionally I'll use it in the police business, which is police defensive firearms training, policedft.com. I will use the word advanced because if you don't say advanced, cops won't sign up because they already think that they're squared away. We talked about that earlier. They're not, but they think they are. So I put advanced in there to get them to sign up, and then I school them when they get there that there is no such thing as advanced shooting. My email address is ron.flowers@citizensdt. That's CITIZ as in zebra, E as in echo, N as in Nancy, S as in Sam, deltatango.com, or ron.flowers@policedeltafoxtrottango.com. So that's where you can find me on the web and all that kind of stuff. I do travel. I used to travel a lot. I traveled nationally for NRA Law Enforcement Division and for another organization called INLEFIA, National Law Enforcement Firearms Instructors Association. But I finally walked away from all my part-time jobs after 17 years with one of them and 5 years with another. And I focus on my own business and my own farm. So that's how you reach me. And I will travel, but I'm not going to travel far unless it's for a friend or a contract.
Well, I'm going to work on getting you out my way. I've got a couple ideas, so that way I can get to spend some more time with you and pick your brain a little bit more.
Well, it was good to have you on. It was good to meet you as well. Yeah, man, we're going to have you on again if that's okay with you.
That's fine. Thank you, Keith. It was a pleasure meeting you and a real pleasure talking with both of y'all.
My prepper brothers and sisters, it doesn't take a specially trained CIA operative or a cop or a detective to see the world as it is and know that it's a dangerous place, filled with unbalanced, mentally ill individuals or just plain evil people. We feel safe and secure in our cozy little homes in that all-encompassing cocoon that we call our neighborhoods. But as preppers, we know all too well that it's just an illusion. That's why we prep. That's why we take some time out of our busy lives to understand and see the writings on the wall and make ready ourselves and our loved ones and our friends and our families for that very real possibility of physical danger. But no worries, we got this, right? Because we're preppers. Stay prepped, stay happy. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Rivers winding round words in my head. Shivering pines say that summer is dead. Chest feels hollow and my hands are numb. Do my best to swallow all the things I've done. You break your back but you still don't have bread. You won't go back on the things that you said. You bleed your heart out and it takes every drop. You've come too far now to ever stop. Wash me in the water and I'll never go back, even when I'm walking to dead man pass. Trust a man cause he'll just let you down. Crooked and twisted we grow from the ground. From dust we came in, dust we shall return. From dust we came in, dust we shall return. Wash me in the water and I'll never go back, even when I'm walking through dead man paths. Walking to dead man paths. Wash me in the water and I'll never go back, even when I'm walking through